Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our Focus Friday. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from Gary Peterson. Gary Peterson is the VP of Supply Chain and Production at OC Tanner, where he's led for over 35 years. He is a Shingo Academy member, and he's also an AME Hall of Fame inductee, and he is known for his people first, hands-on leadership style. Gary loves the outdoors. He loves spending time with his family and has 19 grandchildren, and we're very excited to hear from him. Please welcome Gary Peterson.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I know. You're like, whoa, wait, 19 grandchildren? He doesn't look that old. I'm older than I look. They are I love my grandkids. I love being a dad. I really love being a dad. But being a grandpa is incredible. Simply amazing. No pressure, all joy. Yeah. This is really hot, isn't it? I'm a loud talker. Maybe I'll lower it down just a little bit. Is there a dial? I don't think so. I'm just going to undo my button here and lower it down. Well, perfect. Well, thanks for coming. I know you probably got lots of things you could be doing on a Friday morning. And I don't know, maybe coming to campus isn't one of them typically. So to have you come here, I'm honored that you would come and choose time to be here. He mentioned my 19 grandchildren. He also said that I'm known for people-centric leadership. I didn't start that way, but in my journey of life, I found that being focused on people just brought absolutely incredible results, not only to the business, but in the lives of those people. And it became just a singular drive for me. I was thinking, I was at an orchestra concert for my 13-year-old grandson last night, and he broke his arm playing football. And he somehow pulled the cast down so he could play his cello, which I just thought was classic. But my daughter-in-law was thanking us for coming, and I wrote to them that there's nothing that brings me more joy than just to imagine any one of her children. That makes me very happy. But the other thing that brings me joy like that is, like, if I'm at work and I'm having a rough day. If I walk out on the floor and just start talking to our team members, perks me right up. Makes me really happy. Have any of you been to the OC Tanner Company, our headquarters here in Salt Lake City? Just a few of you. Well, y'all ought to come. Everyone ought to come on down. Let's go down this afternoon. Yeah, it did sound like an invitation, didn't it? So I've got a presentation here, and that I'm gonna make, and I'm not too particular about getting through all the slides. Mostly, I just want to interact with you, and the slides will maybe guide some of that conversation. But I'm happy to have you ask questions throughout, and so this can become somewhat of a dialogue, if you'd like. If there's something I say that you'd like me to say something more about, or if you'd like to disagree with me, or that's all fine. Just raise your hand, and maybe I'll ask you to tell us, your name and maybe something about you, and then I'd love to hear your question. And we'll see how that goes until it becomes so disruptive. I just have to tell you, okay, no more of this. You guys shut up and let me talk. We'll see how that goes. So, I've been at OC Tanner for 38 years. I started there as an intern and never got away. And they've got a mandatory retirement age at 65. All VPs have to retire. I turn 65 next month, so it's like, boom, out the door. And but it's good. My boss had to retire 18 years ago, and I got his job. I thought it was the smartest policy on the face of the earth. So I really can't be a hypocrite now and say it's not good. But my replacement, one of my VPs, is taking my place, Tolan Brown, and he's brilliant. So you'll all want to work. You'll want to work for Tolan. I think that'd be great. So I'm going to talk about leadership for the 21st century. Let me just say something about the O.C. Tanner Company first. One of the things we're best known for is our application of lean thinking. And lean is kind of an unfortunate term. When people ask me about our culture, I call it a culture of continuous improvement. And we've been on the journey for more than 30 years. I actually started as I was in the marketing department. And about 4 years into my journey there at O.C. Tanner, things were starting to fall apart in manufacturing because of the way we went to market. So the way we were receiving orders was changing. It was bad for manufacturing. And so they posted a job for a facilitator of change. I thought that sounded fun. I had jet black hair at the time. It's been very stressful, but it was really good for me, really good for the company. Been in manufacturing. Well, I'd taken a couple other detours along the way. 30 years there. This is the stat that seems to astonish the most people. When I first got there, the time from when you issue an order until you ship an order was 26 days. And we took that down to 20 minutes. So if one of our mini factories is about 2/3 the size of this group of people right here. All of those jobs, those 28 different departments are now in this U-shaped cell right here. And 4 people are doing all of the work. And you can watch it. You can see why it's 20 minutes, which makes you realize how much waste is in every process, not just manufacturing, but companies build in a tremendous amount of bad process to what they do, which all has to be rooted out. And it's very difficult work, but doable. You may know that we make everything to order. We make service awards, recognition awards, and we don't have anything on the shelf that we ship to a client. They get on and they configure it. They choose what they want, and we make it to order. So one piece flow is one of our calling cards. It was interesting when I got there. We had all sorts of awful chemicals: cyanide, arsenic, lead, sulfuric acid, various degreasers, and as you shrink your floor. Your space on the floor, as you bring people closer and closer together, you can't take cyanide out of a controlled space and put it on the floor. You shouldn't be doing that with sulfuric acid, and can't do that with arsenic or lead. Ammonia, we had ammonia-fed ovens, that'll kill you. And we had to get rid of all of it in order to do the work in such a small space. And so I didn't have anybody tell me when we got started that going lean would also be very green, but certainly was for us. Our efficiency up more than 10 times, easy. I was telling a group of faculty this morning, though, that so we had 1,400 people when we started, and then we just stopped hiring for 10 years because our efficiencies were going up so much. We ended up with 140 people doing now twice the work that 1,400 people were doing. Can you believe that? And yet you walk on the floor, no one's breaking a sweat. It's just they just made the job really easy to do. We are a go-and-see site for McKinsey and for Toyota. So they bring their clients to us when clients are like, hey, I got to figure out how to engage our people more, help them be empowered. Well, let's go see O.C. Tanner. And we walk out on the floor with them. I tell them to go talk to people for 10 minutes. When they come back, they are putty in my hands because they just come back saying, I can't believe the engagement, the ownership, the accountability. And so we're known for that. And as I said, we're a showcase for Toyota. The only one west of the Mississippi. So kind of proud of that. But anybody know who this gentleman is? Yeah, I heard a couple people say that the faculty recognize Frederick Taylor, perhaps, an industrial engineer. You can kind of tell what time period he lived in, partially by his clothes, but also he's working on the Model T. And he was a really smart guy. And he could stand and watch people work. I could stand and watch people work all day. I'm intrigued by it. I'm enthralled by it. He would stand and watch them work, and he could identify a better way to do the job. And he would tell them, if you do this, your job will be better. And that was kind of the beginning of industrial engineering of sorts, kind of a know-it-all who tells you how to do your job. The idea behind this was that someone will tell you how to do your job. You don't need to understand why. Just do what you're told. Does that sound like a great way to work? Great way to live, even? Nobody wants to live like that, right? But that was the standard way of operating in companies around the world for, I'm going to say, in some companies they still do it this way. Hopefully not a company you're going to go work for. And but probably for 80 years, 70 years at least, this was the standard way of doing work. And all of this is not create powerful people. But I think what we stumbled on at O.C. Tanner is a methodology that creates people who are powerful. Got a picture here? Anyway, I think I'm going to talk to you about methodologies for leadership that I have seen. This isn't theoretical. I have seen create powerful people. This is a picture of one of our teams. Very, very powerful, awesome people, very strong, very capable. I've had people point out that Rhonda in the back on the left, maybe she's not so happy. She's in chronic pain. That's actually a smile there. These guys know what they're doing. There would be, if I were to walk into that team and try to tell them how to do their job, I think they'd just smile at me and laugh. Thanks, Gary. Because they know what to do, right? They know better how to do their job than I do. And I'm going to just kind of talk for a minute here about what I think the drivers of change have been for why the management style of the 50s has mostly died. Maybe that's not true. Halfway died. Needs to die. We need to kill it. Maybe that's not the right language. At least throttle it. That still sounds too violent. I think, and I don't think anything I'm going to say here, the next 4 points, they're all things that you know. And so I'm not trying to teach you something here, but maybe I'm trying to give you some information that you can use when you are working for somebody who maybe needs to try something new. You can speak knowledgeably about maybe why they should make some changes, because I think these things definitely caused the change. The first one is technology. Back in for most of the last century, data was not everywhere. It came on a little spreadsheet, usually 2 weeks into the next month, and somebody had to pore over old data and from it try to figure out what to do about it. What should we do differently? And it wasn't accessible to everybody. And as I said, it was old and stale, so it took some interpretation anyway. These days, everything you want is at your fingertips. Anything you want to consume, you can get it. Any data that you need about what's going on in the operation, whatever you're doing, ask for it, right? Microsoft Copilot, for example, it is connected to all of my workplace email, to our Jira system, to everything. So you don't even, research is a breeze. Can you tell me about how many times we've had an issue with John Deere and Company in the last 14 days? And they'll bring up every single instance just like that. Now, everybody knows everything, right? So you don't need a manager and his or her first lieutenant to sit in an office and pore over data and decide what to do. Everyone can make good decisions now. Any training you want is at your fingertips, right? You can learn how to do anything with your phone. So these things didn't exist before, and I think this single-handedly makes the old style absolutely ridiculous. The old style of command and control the hierarchy, the domineering influence of a manager who owns everything. I think technology has totally changed that game. Second thing is business is so much more complex now than it was before. All the different things that we're considering, that we're thinking about, all the supply chains, everything's so much more complex, and clients are demanding rapid change and improvements in products. Half a century ago, I believe I wasn't in the business then, but I believe you could go to market with a product and you could count on that product in its current state to ride it out for some time. Now I don't think products that you launch now, 6 months from now, are differentiated from whatever the competition is doing. So the pace of change is horrendous, and nothing like anything we've seen before in the history of work. And finally, I think the younger generation just has a whole new expectation in terms of what should work do for me? What can I expect from work? So I think these four are the death knell for the old style of leadership. So now you've got what you need to go out and argue for a healthy workplace. But let me tell you, so someone will say to you, okay, so the old one is dead, but what replaces it? That's what I'm going to talk about. Kind of talk through what I think the role of the modern leader is. That's where we're going now. Questions, comments, arguments? Say amen. Amen. I'm from Tennessee, so that's my upbringing right there. I didn't think you really meant it, but no, that's good. All right, so here's the new model. This is the new model. I'm just used to amen. I'm used to the real, if you will. So all right. Oh, we should try it again. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Okay, you do mean it. All right. Okay. Very good. I'm going to take a little swig here. All right, so my wife told me not to get the purple one. She thought it was feminine. I kind of like it. I don't know. Do you? Huh? It is a very good purple. Thank you. I'm going to tell her you said that. So here is what I think the elements of the new model are. Decentralized autonomy. So instead of command and control, one person calling all the shots, it's more of everyone takes ownership. Everyone's involved at all levels. Everyone's like, give me a piece and let me run with it. Decentralized. Personal excellence. No more do I think in the most successful organization is it acceptable for a person to just kind of float, just kind of get by, clock in, clock out, just go through the day. Everyone's got to be their best. Now that doesn't mean everyone's the same, because no one is the same. So life is a normal curve, and you definitely have people who are brighter and more capable and more energized. But the question is, can everybody rise to their best? And can we as management work to help people be their personal best, whatever that is? So personal excellence is in there. And then the last one is a sense of partnership, kind of a shared consciousness where it's not so much about the individual who's the superstar who can just go out there and do crazy things, but how do we get everybody doing that? When we first took apart the department, in a department of operators doing one process, the superstar is the hero, the one who can do twice the work of everybody else. Everyone just, they bow to them. This is awe-inspiring. But when you take apart a department and put someone from every department in a cell and you ask them to work together, the superstar can't shine because there's a pace at which the team is working. And if the superstar really wants to make a difference now, they've got to teach. They've got to share. Let's all get better. And that's not in the superstar's mentality. That's not what we built into them when they were shining in the department. So here in this new environment, it's more we're all going to help each other be better. We're in it for all of us. And when you need some help, I'll help you, as opposed to, Yeah, don't bother me. I'm shining right now. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So I think that what I just described, I would call it a thriving workplace. And look at this data. When you have a thriving culture and a strong workplace community, burnout, as reported by individuals on the team, is down 2/3. That's a pretty big metric. That's pretty important. Tenure goes up 63%. Job satisfaction up 1/4. Satisfaction with the employee experience up 1/3. The odds of perceived inclusion, I feel like I have a place here, up almost 5 times. The odds that the person's going to be a promoter on some sort of net promoter score, up 12 times. Are you kidding me? The odds of employee feeling a sense of belonging, up almost 23 times, and the odds of that person giving aspirational levels of great work is up almost 24 times. Those are big numbers. Now think about, I was just telling you before, we started with 1,400 people, and now we have 140 people doing more than twice that much work. Doesn't it sound like maybe those people are giving aspirational levels of great work? Yeah, and they're loving it, right? They're happy. So this is a big deal. This is all data from our O.C. Tanner Institute. We do a global study every year. Organizations with strong workplace communities share these elements. Shared goals, commitment, together, we as a team, this is what we're trying to achieve. It's not the goals the manager gave us. It's not the goals the organization is foisting on us. It is the goals that we're saying, hey, this is what's going to make a difference here. We're talking a lot of communication, feedback, we're listening, we're sharing. Adaptation, meaning that let's change, let's fix. We're not going to rest here. Let's do something different. Let's do it together, which is the unity. And then the camaraderie, the getting along, the trust. The other thing that people say when they come back from visiting in our teams is, I can't believe how happy everybody is. Everybody's smiling. Everybody seems to get along. That's a great way to work, right? Great way to work. So would you believe that when employees feel like they have 8 times more likely to feel like they belong in an organization if there's a strong workplace community? That probably seems to be pretty true on its face. And of course, we're a recognition company, so we're selling recognition products to the world. And if you will engage in recognition, then the odds of having a strong community go up 5 times. So I highly recommend. Now, we sell to large enterprises, so if you leave here and go work for a big global multinational, please buy from O.C. Tanner. That would be awesome, because you have 5 times the likely that you'll have a strong community. Okay, so let's talk about the new leader's role. Any questions about any of that? Yes, sir. What's your name? Brian. Brian. Is it with an I or a Y? With an I. Okay. Oh, sorry, I can't do that. Yeah. Where are you from, Brian?
I'm from Ogden originally, but I've been up here for about 20 years.
Okay, fantastic.
I work here at
At Huntsman,
Huntsman.
okay. Excellent.
So what you described this old way, right, is where we were. What you're describing this new way is not necessarily a final destination, but certainly where we want to go.
A direction, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the battleground in between?
It's bloody. The battleground in between is bloody, unfortunately. Mostly because I'll tell you what. Well, I can tell you what I found, and I do a lot of consulting and visiting other companies. I can tell you what I've seen. In my experience, when we pitch the idea of a new way of being, a new way of working, team members love the thought. Didn't necessarily believe it, and weren't sure that management would let them do it. And we're actually, in our case, they were very afraid of management. But once team members started to, we started training them on a new way of being. It took them a couple of months to warm up and get over their fear, and they started to accept it. Did pretty well with it. The people that didn't pan out there would be people who don't care to come to work with curiosity and energy and collaboration. I don't want to talk to anybody. They didn't work out at O.C. Tanner. I have a chip on my shoulder about everybody I see. They didn't work out at O.C. Tanner. So that was where some people struggled. Management, unfortunately, there was no common, nobody but me was saying, let's do this. And so, in fact, our CEO was like, what are you doing? So that didn't help. Management is like, I don't know how to lead the way he's saying. I don't want to do it. And frankly, I don't think he's going to last. So I just got to outlive him and I'll be fine. Everything will go back to how it was. And so the net effect was that they got left behind. And we ended up losing a lot of them because people get the leaders they deserve, I think. And that is true in government, by the way. We've got the leaders we deserve, so shame on you all. I don't know. That's I think our politicians are who they represent us. I think it's the same in business. I think if people want to be told what to do and just have mindless jobs, that's the kind of leaders they'll have. But once they start to aspire to something better, then naturally the leaders have to adapt. Or, as managers would leave of their own accord because they just didn't feel like they fit anymore, we would hire a higher level of manager. And nobody, and it would be like, oh, that's cool, that's different, it's better. And it just, as the people rose up, it became easier and easier to change the ranks of leadership. So one other thing I'd say about the battle is that I see a lot of change agents in very large organizations trying to change one thing across the entire organization. And I'm more bought into like the model line, the idea of going in somewhere and getting it as good as possible, because then others can see it and can emulate it and want to be like it. And it was easier for me to get one thing going and keep it going and then to add to it. And then there's always like a few departments or people who want nothing to do with anything. Okay, I'm not coming your way. We're going to grab these people, and other people like, and I call them cave dwellers, the small percentage of the population. I just pushed the wrong button. Oh, I didn't. And doesn't matter what you do, they're not going to come along. And I learned, and I spent so much time with them, and I realized, don't do it. Don't spend time with them. They're not going to change them. But there's a bigger group actually. I found about twice as big as those who want something new and want to experiment and want to try things and have the energy to do so. And that's where I spent my energy. And everybody else, it feels like to me, is just waiting to see who's going to win the battle. Right now they're all paying attention to the cave dwellers, because they're snarky and they're kind of fun in their dark way. But this is kind of looking fun over here. It's kind of looking safe. It actually looks better. And then they kind of come on board. That's the way I see that whole thing happening. And now you realize that any question you ask me, I'm going to take 5 minutes to answer. That's just the way I talk, for which I apologize. Yeah. Good answer, though? I don't know. Yeah? Brian? From the U.S.? All right, very good. Okay, so I'm going to suggest to you that the new leader needs to focus on culture rather than the day-to-day operations, which is totally upside down, I think, with what the business world would say to you. But we have gone to the point at O.C. Tanner where the people who are worried about the day-to-day is the team members. They're running the factory. They're running the business. They're responsible for the profits. And the manager's role, the leader's role, is to help them, to teach them, to encourage them, to give them new skills, to make them better at what they do. And so I think obviously If you get a management role somewhere, you're going to be expected to deal with the day-to-day, but you ought to have in your mind this idea that I'm going to get the people ultimately responsible for the day-to-day. That's what that's how I'm going to succeed. So let me tell you some of the things I think that the new leader should do to focus on culture. The first one is develop a common purpose. I don't know if you're familiar with the Shingo model, but right near the top of it is the idea of what drives us. Why do we do what we do? Where are we going, and why? It's a question of why. And if you ever listen to like Simon Sinek or people like that, this why do we do what we do is critical for motivation. And if you don't have a why for what you're doing, then it's going to be, you're not going to care that much about it. Maybe you found that in school. Maybe you found that when you were younger. You need a why, something that is inspiring. And so developing the common purpose is a big deal. And later we're going to come back to that as well. Second thing, here, look at this. When an employee's sense of purpose is high, they are more positive about their jobs in the organization. With a low sense of purpose, 3/4 as much pride in the organization. High sense of purpose 3 times. Pretty good, right? Desire to stay here goes up almost 2.5 times, more than 2.5 times. Promoter of the organization, half as likely, 114% up. Great work, look at that big increase. Describe work as part of my identity, it's a huge jump. Burnout. Twice as likely to be burned out if I don't have a sense of purpose at work. So, school, it'd be really smart of you to get a sense of purpose for what you do, why you're doing it, right? Okay, second thing they would do, the leader would spark conversations and connections. I think that there's few things more important than connections with people. And hopefully not people who are just like you or think just like you, but all people. Because this world is an incredible place. The diversity and the differences are so phenomenal. If you just surround yourself with people who think like you, you're missing out on a lot. There's a lot of different people out there with different ways of seeing things. And the leader who can connect people to each other is very powerful. And conversation, of course, is a great way to do that. If you bring 2 people together, they don't connect if there's no conversation. So that's why I think conversation connection is there. Now, let's talk about the power of connection for a manager, for this leader. These are the 3 things that we have found that a modern leader should be trying to connect with people on. Of course, we already talked about purpose, our why, our understanding for our work and our purpose as an organization. Connecting them with accomplishment, encourage their growth and development, and show appreciation for what they do and celebrate their success, and connect with each other. The modern leader would build connections with peers and other leaders, would give them networking opportunities, which is exactly the opposite of what I found when I first moved to manufacturing in O.C. Tanner, where everyone just came in and sat down and shut up, and the manager didn't want them talking to anybody, and certainly not to anybody in another department. Right? And that's all got to go away. Let's talk about the power of doing this. When leaders connect people to purpose, accomplishment, and one another, 2.5 times more likely the employee will be a promoter, 4 times more likely that the employer will highly rate their employee experience, 8 times more likely that they'll be engaged, and look at this, 17 times more likely the employee will have a strong positive perception of leadership. So if you're going to be a leader somewhere and you want your people to think well of you, connect them to purpose, to accomplishment, to one another. Be a great thing for you to do early on as a leader in a new area. Make sense? This is all real practical stuff. I hope you're taking notes on this. Okay. When a leader feels connected to their team, it's 18 times more likely that the organization's culture will thrive. This will do the opposite. When a leader is not connected to their team, well, that's just miserable, right? Okay. All right. Next thing they would do, create engagement by respecting team autonomy. What time are we done here? 11:30, 12, 1? 11:30. Okay, good. Right on target. Good, good. You could ask more questions, though. I'm not saying you can't ask questions. So respect engagement by respecting team autonomy. So, as I struggle to get team members to be willing to make changes and to try things, mostly because they were all afraid of failure. They were all afraid that they made a mistake, that they'd look bad, it would be bad for them. And that is a big thing you got to turn around. You got to get to the point where failure is fun. We're learning from failure. We try things and we're figuring things out. We're so much smarter because of all those mistakes we made. Now you got to fail fast. You're not going to wallow in failure. Fail fast, learn, try something new. That's the whole idea of PDCA. Are you going to get a different angle for the photo? I think that's. I'm just teasing. So I think that you got to say to the team, we need you doing things. We need you involved. We need you to make things happen. And there are two essential elements. One is autonomy. The other is psychological safety. I want to talk about both of these. These are critical. Let's do autonomy first. So what is autonomy? What would you say autonomy is? There, we're got a little audience participation here. Autonomy is what? There's probably like 6 different answers, so you don't have to give the whole thing yourself. But yeah. What is autonomy?
An ability to make choices yourself.
Yeah. That is autonomy. So what is your name?
I'm Andrew.
Andrew. So you were here earlier. Were you like helping to set up or something?
I work in the dean's office.
In the dean's office. Okay. We see Andrew. Very nice. Very good. Yeah, anybody have anything to add to that? I love that definition. There may be some other color that someone wants to add. Yeah.
Say they feel trusted.
Oh, yeah. So it's not just that I have power, but I am trusted in that power. It's like I trust you to make those decisions. Yeah, very good. We don't kids, young kids. We don't trust them right off the bat to make good decisions, right? We're going to go play in the front yard, but I'm not going to trust they're not going to go on the street. Right? I don't believe I can just trust them. So you really don't trust people. You got to build confidence, right? You got to teach so that you can trust. And I think that's a manager's job. A manager's job is to figure out how to teach and what to teach so that they can fully trust people to make decisions. You can't just walk into a team that doesn't know how to problem solve, that doesn't know how to work together to collaborate, that doesn't have any problem solving methodologies and say, I empower you to go fix stuff. Go! And they're like, I don't know what to do, and they won't do it right? You got to teach them to trust them, to turn them loose. Yeah, that is autonomy. We're going to come back to psychological safety. When autonomy is low, no big shocker, engagement is low. When autonomy is high, look at that, huge difference. When autonomy is low, incident of burnout, way up. When autonomy is high, you're far less likely to burn out if you have autonomy. When autonomy is low, I don't like it here. Autonomy is high, I'm in a great experience, right? Does that make sense? But these two go hand in hand. What is psychological safety, you think? This is more complex. It's probably like, yeah, what do you think it is?
I think you're more willing to fail and mess up in front of your peers.
Yeah. Being able to fail or mess up in front of peers would be a great definition of psychological safety. Feel safe. We're among friends here. People say that. We're among friends here. Go ahead and screw up. But do they really mean it? If I say that, but then when you screw up, I'm like, right? That's not psychological safety. Yeah. What else might psychological safety be? Yes, Brian.
I think just like freedom to experience, right? Like highs, lows.
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
You
Oh
can
yeah.
shine in psychological safety just as well as you can fail, right?
Yeah, I'm totally comfortable with you having your experience. Yeah, whatever it is. And yeah, I don't have to, it's not important to me that you do things, you live life the way I expect you to, and you experience it the way I expect it to. I actually want you to have your experience. Yeah, that would be psychological safety. And Libby, we didn't catch your name, but I see it's on your shirt, so yeah, very nice. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so let's talk about the impact of these. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Well,
No,
just kind of
sorry.
going along the lines of Brian. My favorite was, so I used to nanny, and I knew that the weirder the kids acted around me, the more safe they felt with me. And I felt like it's that freedom of being able to express not just like those highs and the lows, but realizing, hey, what makes me different is important, and bringing it to the table and creating a more well-rounded team.
Yeah,
Because you're not wanting the same person over and over and over again.
yeah.
That's not what makes a good company great. It's taking all the strengths and weaknesses of everybody around you in the team and forming and creating the best thing possible.
Man, that was really good. Are the acoustics good enough in here? Like you guys could hear her talking back there? Or? Okay. Kind of, right? Not really? Sort of? The older guys are struggling a little bit. I will, yeah, I'm sorry we missed that. That was really good. Anybody else have a comment for which you'd like the mic shoved in your face? Okay, I'm sorry. Made that awkward. All right, so let's talk about psychological safety. Incredibly strong returns come from it. 3.5 times more likely that your employees will be engaged. Almost 3 times more likely that they'll rate their employee experience high. 1.5 times more likely incidents of great work. And when you have a medium sense of autonomy, you're twice as likely to say, I feel psychologically safe. That seem like a right connection? Catch this. When you have a high sense of autonomy, you are almost 6 times more likely to report that you feel psychologically safe. So they go hand in hand. Very important. So on the shingle model, the results are at the top, the continuous improvement is in the middle, and the culture is at the bottom. And the culture is respect for people, humble leadership. And I have companies all the time who come to OC Tanner, and they're like, "Yeah, we launched this continuous improvement program. Everybody was all excited about it, and 2 months later, it was dead. I don't know what killed it." I'm like, "I know what killed it. Your culture killed it." Everyone's excited about the idea, but as soon as it's either going to be the humble leadership problem or the respect for people problem, in my mind. Someone had the audacity to share what they thought would be a good idea, and the leader said something stupid about it, or a team member rolled their eyes, or the big sigh, or oh my gosh, all of a sudden safety goes out the window, and I would argue when safety goes out the window, so does autonomy. There's nothing we can do, right? So we have spent a ton of time building in psychological safety in our teams and teaching people to be less judgmental of others, to be more open to something that's different from the way they think, to welcome all sorts of ideas, to be open to trying things, and to be kind and interested in other people, to really listen to them. Those are tough traits to teach or to expect from people if like they didn't get it at home or they didn't get it at school or wherever. You're going to get it at OC Tanner when you come in. And I would suggest that someday when you're ruling the world, that this would be a great expectation of your subjects, that you are treating them with respect and they're treating each other with respect. Yes, sir. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Matthew.
Hi, Matthew. Where are you from, Matthew?
I grew up in Kaysville.
In Kaysville.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't even know where that is. Is
Really?
that like down, did I pass it on my way up
Yeah,
here?
you did. So
Okay,
it's like,
Kaysville.
you know, Layton
Fantastic.
or Farmington where Lagoon is.
Okay, Farmington, that's where Lagoon is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now. I'm with
Okay.
you.
So I am curious. We're talking about autonomy, psychological safety. You mentioned previously, you know, this is you're going away from that controlled environment, as well as you know you're telling a story about a kid, you know, can't necessarily be trusted right away to not
Right.
go in the street. I'm just a little curious how you feel about the standard fiscal controls and I guess aspects that have been implemented by the Sarbanes-Oxley Act that um, I guess require more control to prevent asset misappropriation as well as fraudulent reporting. I guess how do you reconcile that?
I will first thank you, Matthew. Great question. I will first say that I follow the law, and I never encourage anyone not to follow the law. One of the things that slows down teams is regulation, is rules, and there are some things. I mean, obviously, you have to if you're sailing a boat, you have to have a rule about you can't drill a hole in the bottom of the boat. That has to be a rule. It has to be steadfast. You have to follow it. You have to enforce it, right? Or you will face the consequences. And I think that is true. You have to have some rules. But I have found that for teams, generally organizations have more rules than they need, more rules than they should have. And most of them came about because something went wrong 20 years ago, and so we put this rule in place. I try to give our teams more guidance, more direction, more vision and purpose, and less rules to follow. That's my feeling about it. But you know, sometimes HR comes in and says, "Hey, you have to do this." Okay, all right, Sarbanes-Oxley. I don't want to go to jail. That's just kind of my take. Does that answer your question, Matthew? Okay, you betcha. Thanks for asking. All right. So respecting team autonomy. The next thing I think that the new leader would do would tell stories of purpose. So we mentioned right up front that you got to develop the common purpose. Okay, we have this purpose. You got to keep going back to it. You got to talk purpose. You got to talk meaning, reason for why we do what we do. And you know, so we're making awards for companies to give to their people, which we choose to believe. It isn't always the case, but we choose to believe that a manager got up in front of people and really did a great job of honoring this person for something. And if they do that, there's power in it. And I can talk to my people about that, but the best time to teach that is when we are honoring somebody. We are in the middle of talking about somebody who did something great, and everyone's like, yes, and the feelings are warm and affection. Everyone feels good about it, and everyone's aspiring to be like that person. That is a great time for the manager to point out, you realize this is what we sell? This good feeling you have, that's what we do. Isn't that powerful? Great time to tell stories of purpose. And on our at the top of our strategy map, our purpose statement says, we help people thrive at work. And when you walk into OC Tanner, it's written on the wall when you walk in. We help people thrive at work. Welcome to OC Tanner. It doesn't say welcome to OC Tanner. I'm just saying that. It just says we help people thrive at work. Welcome to OC Tanner. Okay, you get it. So I'm standing behind Feli Salazar one day, little Filipino gal on one of our watch lines. And she's kind of dancing, she's humming, she's singing, and it's really pretty delightful. And she finishes the job she's working on, she passes it on, and she goes to start another one. And I ask her, Feli, how are you doing today? She says, I'm great. And I said, I can see you're great. That's obvious. Tell me why are you great? I didn't know if she'd talk about her grandkid or the muffin she had for breakfast. I don't know what it was. She said, Gary, I just finished an award for, and she read his name off the screen. 15 years, when he gets that, it's going to make his day. And I thought, by golly, the purpose is making her happy. Our purpose, it's in her core. And I thought, do I have to worry about Philly's quality? Nope. Do I have to worry about why she comes to work? Why is she here? Nope. Do I have to worry about, is she going to try to make things better and do more of our work, provide more value with less effort? Nope. She's in, right? So I've just told you a story of purpose. And that's what good leaders do, I think. They tell stories of purpose. And we're dropping like flies here. I don't know if it's Thanks for coming. Garrett, with 2 T's. Good to have you. All right. The new leader would spread the information that's needed for shared understanding. So what does it take? What do we need for us to get along? I think there's 2 things I want to talk about here. One is we have great reports. All of our teams understand. So we make everything to order, and some of them are really hard to make, and we charge for it. And so the really hard stuff, actually, we make a lot of money on it, and the easy stuff, maybe not so much. And if you got the wrong metric, if you're recognizing people for pieces per hour, they all want to do the simple, low profit stuff. But we reward them on gross margin. The more money your team makes, and you make money by making a lot of great profitable product. So every team, every day, knows how profitable their line is. And I had a ton of people tell me, oh, you don't want to tell the team what their gross margin is. What are they going to do with that? And you know what they do with it? They act like entrepreneurs. They act like they own the business. That's what they do with it. So give them data. Spread the information. Share the information that they need. But the other is also cultural. This is at the bottom of our strategy map, this statement. I'm going to read it to you. It's foundational for us. That's why it's at the bottom of the strategy map. It all starts with our people. We appreciate people who believe we're bigger together than we are apart, who work shoulder to shoulder, even when they don't see eye to eye, who have great ideas and genius solutions and a collaborative spirit, who understand what clients really need is a good listening to, who watch out, speak up, and work safely, who keep their promises, learn lessons, laugh, spread joy, and create a sense of family, who do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and who realize that ultimately we're in the most important business of all, the business of valuing people. That's kind of self-important on the end there, but you can do that with your own internal document, right? So, and we hire to this statement. We coach to this statement. We share with people, this is who we are. This is how we relate to each other. And then finally, they would empower. So, can you believe we got through all my slides? That may have been a world record. And yet, I don't think we felt rushed, right? We were had a good pace going. Just a couple of thoughts here. Yes?
Oh, I just have a question. You mentioned, sometimes companies don't reward for the right thing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a microphone. Sweet. What else do you see?
You look good with that mic.
Thank you. I'll be on for myself. What are other things that people do wrong when trying to implement employee recognition or reward systems?
Yeah, they accidentally reward the wrong things, like firefighting. People who rush into burning buildings and put out the fire. Oh, you're such a hero. You solve our big problems. While there's some other group of people who are very quietly fixing problems so they go away. They never happen again. They're working down to root cause. Well, why don't we take that spotlight and take it off of the firefighters who everyone adores, you're so wonderful, instead shine it over here and say, you guys are fixing problems so they go away. We adore that. So think about what you're recognizing, who you're honoring, what's the message you really want to send with the program. That would be a big thing. Second thing I would say is that sometimes we're we have a scarcity mentality. Like there's not enough for everybody, so I'm not going to give it to anybody. Because if I give it to you, I didn't give one to her yesterday, so she'll be mad. So I can't say anything today. No, why not just say it to everybody? Why not just have an abundant mentality. There's plenty. Give it to everybody. Tell everybody when they do something great. And the more the recognition is, I think the more powerful it is. So I think jumping into it is the second mistake that a lot of people make. I'm not going to bill you for those two. That's really powerful stuff right there. Yeah. All right. You gave up the mic. I'm disappointed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I love like this new model that you've presented for leadership and just all the principles of like how to like apply that, like especially on an organizational level.
Yeah.
Do you have any like advice or tweaks that you would make of maybe how to do that on more of an interpersonal level, especially for university students where we're not necessarily in those like hierarchical positions yet?
Yes, absolutely. So in fact, we'll end here. That's a great place to end, is that I think that I hear all the time from people who don't have authority or a big scale of responsibility or anybody above them saying this is good, saying, well, I can't do anything because I'm not being supported. And I believe that in any environment you're in, you have a scope of influence. You have people with whom you're interacting, with whom you're talking, with whom you're making things happen. And I say that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make everything as good as possible for that scope of influence. Be the shining light that everyone is saying, we can be better. I can be better. I want to be like that. And as your circle grows and improves and takes on better mannerisms and way of beings, it becomes a light for others who want to be more like that. So I always say, start with your circle and make things better where you are, be it roommates, classmates, family, whatever. I think we all should challenge ourselves to be our best self and to elevate those around us. So thank you very much for having me today. Appreciate it.
I'm going to do, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're going to do a quick poll really fast. How did you first hear about this event? A faculty member or by a show? Raise your hands. A flyer? Email? Text? Anything? What am I missing? The calendar? Okay, so you guys are all faculty member? Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to give this to Quentin. Sorry.
A gift basket.
Well, thank you so
Classy.
much for
Thank you.
joining us today and sharing your valuable insights. We wanted to present you with this gift basket.
Fantastic.
And, thank you so much for spending time with us and for coming to the forum today. Please have a wonderful day and feel free to come up and ask Gary some questions.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.